Happy Halloween month, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Rose Nolan's children's opera, The Painted Dragon, with pianist Insa Berns, which I saw at the ufaFabrik. This opera came across me by complete chance because I was quite fascinated by what the composer herself, Rose Nolan, told me about the basic plot of this opera. This combines fairy tales with an environmental message, as well as giving voice to those who are underrepresented in the performing arts world. I was quite intrigued by the premise of this opera, and I basically came into this with an open mind, and the results were absolutely charming and really lovely to witness, both vocally and theatrically. As it is a children's opera, especially since it's not staged in a traditional opera house, the sets are rather minimalistic. There's a piano on the left-hand side of the stage, as well as a puppet-like frame. And what was able to make the staging effective is its simplicity in terms of it not being a traditional opera house, but also where it was able to capitalize on the children's involvement, as well as ensuring that families and audiences alike be just as involved as the main players are. Furthermore, having the piano as the main musical instrument allows for the very young audience to be just as engaged, as involved with the overall performance, let alone story, through movement, mimicry, and gestures. So this was definitely fun incarnate in terms of the overall execution of Rose Nolan's The Painted Dragon, and the costumes were also absolutely lovely to witness. So the minimalistic simplicity of The Painted Dragon at the ufaFabrik was absolutely charming, especially when it comes to parents who have very young children. And what's also very fascinating about this particular children's opera is the language switch between English and German for younger kids to be sensitized to both languages and therefore learn the various meanings of each of those words, expressions, and sentences, thus also heightening that engagement and involvement from the audience. And now we get to the singers, starting off with the main star of the entire show, Alison Schumacher, who not only portrayed Drew, the Painted Dragon, aka the title hero, but also the frog and the narrator. I was quite fascinated with Mick Schumacher's talent as a singer, actor, and an overall vocal phenomenon. Their vocal production was crystalline, clear, and clean at the very top. And when they hit those chest tones, they were round, rich, and resonant, thus exercising a great deal of chiaroscuro from bottom to top, as well as overall theatrical engagement. That is just how engaging, amazing, and absolutely astounding Miss Alison Schumacher was. Their overall theatrical talents, as well as their vocal prowess, were absolutely intriguing to listen to, and I cannot wait to see a lot more from this amazingly precise singing actor in terms of what they could offer in the musical theater world as well as in the operatic world, because their musical prowess was thoroughly amazing. There was not one fault that I spotted with this particular singer, and their mastery of bel canto singing was thoroughly commendable. So bravo to Miss Alison Schumacher as Drew the Painted Dragon for carrying the show all the way through and for providing such an amazing time, all thanks to their incredible musical and theatrical prowess, helped by that wonderfully warm and really fascinating charisma from those scintillating top notes to those earthy, deep chest tones, as well as that lovable charm. Rose Nolan, the composer and the overall arranger of The Painted Dragon, plays the role of Robin Hood, a travesti role in which she was able to nail it so wonderfully. She is the veteran of the entire cast, given her experience as a mezzo-soprano who has sung the likes of Eboli from Don Carlo, Floshilde from Das Rheingold and Götterdämmerung, both Carmen and Mercedes from Bizet's Carmen, Desideria from The Saint of Bleecker Street, and even Sara from Donizetti's Roberto de Vereux. She's been performing on stage for many years, and the experience that she has gained was in full evidence. She was able to be thoroughly charismatic, thoroughly charming, and thoroughly inviting as an overall wonderful singing actress. She still has those wonderfully warm chest tones, and there's a warmth in her voice that made me thoroughly engaged with her as an overall performer. Sure, sometimes her voice did show some signs of age and a little bit of wear and tear given her overly lengthy experience as a mezzo-soprano who had such a long career on stage. But the experience was also at her side, given that she was able to be so engaging, so charming in her own special way, and she still was able to produce those fine and strong vocal goods. In fact, her greatest assets were her chest tones, which were round and dark, and she was able to dig in deep to those low notes so superbly that I was absolutely in a lot of charm and just so entranced at what Madame Rose Nolan had to offer as a consummate composer and an equally consummate singing actress. There was no shadow of a doubt that Caitlin Toohey exercised her naturally silvery and gorgeous full lyric soprano voice to give life to the cat, the fairy princess, Koe the koala, the elf princess, and the sardine queen with a lot of panache, excellence, brilliance, charisma, charm, and a feminine beauty that she nailed so excellently. There was that silvery and absolutely gorgeous tone that just poured right out of her mouth like crystals and jewels, almost like rubies and sapphires, just pouring right out of her mouth. In fact, her tone reminds me of an amalgamation of Lisa de la Casa, Elisabeth Schwarzkopf, Montserrat Caballé, and Gundula Janowitz. The type of silvery, crystalline, clear tone that has defined those sopranos has also managed to transfer nicely into Caitlin Toohey's performance as the soprano roles. In fact, when reading her biography, I was quite surprised to see the range of roles that she has during her young tenure as a rising full lyric / jugendlich dramatisch Sopran. From the traditional mezzo role of Mère Marie from Le Dialogue de Carmelite by Francis Poulenc, as well as Marcellina from Le Nozze di Figaro, to the full lyric soprano roles of La Contessa Almaviva from Le Nozze di Figaro and even the lighter lyric soprano role of Belgunde from the Ring tetralogy, she definitely exhibited a lot of brilliance, charisma, charm, and beauty to those particular soprano roles and did so with pure abandon. I would love to see a lot more of Miss Toohey just conquer those wonderful roles made for her voice, such as Arabella from Richard Strauss's Arabella, Aitra from the Ägyptische Helena, and maybe even Elsa von Brabant from Lohengrin and Desdemona from Verdi's Otello, unless I forget about Liu from Puccini's Turandot and Fidelia from Puccini's Edgar. The possibilities for Caitlin Toohey are absolutely endless, all thanks to her brilliantly silvery, crystalline, and clear, full lyric soprano voice that just soared throughout the theater. And at times it also reminded me of a coloratura soprano, especially with that emission and that clarity that she was able to emit so exceptionally. And with that said, Caitlin Toohey was also yet another shining star. So overall, the singing was absolutely fabulous from all the singers. Alison Schumacher was definitely the best out of the entire ensemble, given her excellent vocal prowess and her mastery of absolutely amazing bel canto singing from bottom to top. Rose Nolan was able to emit a lot of charm and charisma as Robin Hood, and Caitlin Toohey's mastery of her voice made her wonderful as the soprano roles from The Cat all the way up to Cowie the Koala. So brava to all of these wonderful singers for everything that they've managed to contribute. And the piano playing done by Insa Beans was absolutely well timed and precise, thus making sure that everything comes together in full harmony. Rose Nolan's The Painted Dragon definitely needs a lot more attention and recognition. And whether you caught this show in the morning at 11 a.m. or in the afternoon show at 3 p.m. at ufaFabrik, there's no doubt that your children and your families will definitely enjoy this entire show. I would love to see Rose Nolan's The Painted Dragon acquire a lot more recognition and a whole lot more acknowledgement as a lovely children's opera that could engage both English and German-speaking audiences to the entire story and therefore have them involved. In fact, it would be absolutely brilliant to have a soundtrack of this particular children's opera be available and be thoroughly listened to for everyone who is interested in modern children's operas. That right there is a great promise that I would love to see thoroughly fulfilled. And I have to thank Rose Nolan for the amazing experience that I've had with this children's opera, and for all the families with kids or families with parents out there. You owe it to yourselves to listen and watch The Painted Dragon by Rose Nolan. And for those of you who caught The Painted Dragon by Rose Nolan at ufaFabrik, what'd you think of it? Did you feel that this children's opera was charming in its own special way? Who did you think stole the show from the entire performances, whether it was Alison Schumacher or Rose Nolan herself or Caitlin Toohey? Did you also enjoy the piano playing done by Insa Beans? Or did you feel like this particular children's opera was not really intended for you or your kids or for anybody you hold nearest and dearest to you? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Rose Nolan's The Painted Dragon at the ufaFabrik. Tune in next time for another review. So until then, happy Halloween month, everybody!